Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I didn't grow up thinking dating would end up feeling like an extreme sport. But by the time I hit my late 20s, I'd already collected more unsettling almost moments than actual good dates. A lot of that came from growing up in Lynbrook, a small town outside Milwaukee, where people either settled early or got stuck in their own emotional leftovers. I fell into the latter category, floating through low-pay IT jobs, minor heartbreaks, and a gnawing sense that something was coming for me someday. Most nights after work, I'd crash on my couch with leftover Chinese food, scroll through dating apps, and try not to feel like time was slipping through my hands. That's how everything started. With boredom, leftover lo mein, and a quiet Sunday evening where the loneliness was loud as hell. I was lying on my couch, half watching some documentary on serial killers I'd already seen twice, when my phone buzzed. I assumed it was just another random email, but no, it was a Tinder notification. You matched with Leanna. The name was unique. The profile was even more interesting. Her photos weren't the typical glamorous ones. She had a slightly awkward smile in every picture, the kind that looked real. Shoulder-length dark red hair, a small nose ring, soft brown eyes. Pretty, but not, this has to be fake, pretty. And her bio was simple. New to town. Looking to meet someone chill. No weird vibes, please. I laughed when I read that last part. No weird vibes. If only it were that easy. A message followed almost immediately. Leanna. Hey, you seem like someone I could actually talk to. It was casual, natural, not forced or rushed. I messaged back. Me. Hey, appreciate that. How's your night going? We talked for hours. About music, about her moving from Ohio, about my terrible cooking skills. She wasn't overly flirty, which I liked. She asked questions, she paid attention. She seemed grounded. But something about the rhythm of her replies made my instincts twitch. Not enough to scare me, but enough to tag the moment in my mind. And I should have listened to that first tag. To be honest, I wasn't just lonely. I was emotionally worn out. My last relationship, with a girl named Rowan, ended after 2 years of me pretending everything was fine. She didn't cheat or anything dramatic. She just slowly drifted away until being together felt like sitting across from a stranger at a dinner table, both of us pretending to remember how we used to talk. Ever since then, dating apps became my distraction more than my hope. Something to scroll when life felt too quiet. But when Leanna matched with me, something felt different. Not electric, but curious, like a string had been pulled that I wasn't aware existed. It wasn't until she suggested the date spot that my nerves started screaming louder. 3 days after matching, she messaged, Leanna, there's this little coffee shop near Pine Belt Avenue. It's quiet, kinda cozy. Wanna meet Thursday night? Pine Belt Avenue. I knew that name. Everyone did. It wasn't exactly a crime-ridden neighborhood, but it had this weird vibe, like you were trespassing on someone's territory when you walked there after dark. Half the stores were boarded up. Stray dogs wandered around like they owned the place. Locals always said, Pine Belt ain't dangerous, but it ain't friendly either. So naturally, I hesitated. Me. That area's kind of far. Want to meet downtown instead? She shot back instantly. Leanna. Can't. I don't drive and buses don't go late. Pine Belt spot works best for me. It wasn't rude, but it was firm. Too firm. Something tightened in my chest, an instinct I'd ignored too many times in my life. But I shrugged it off. I'd gone on weirder dates. Still, something felt off. She was too insistent, and Thursday was coming fast. My friend Jay, closest thing I had to a brother, heard about the date and immediately said, Bro, FaceTime her first, just do it. People get trafficked, kidnapped, catfished. Your ass ain't built for kidnapping. Yeah, thanks for the vote of confidence, I muttered. But he was right, and my gut was buzzing. So I messaged me. Hey, wanna hop on video for a few minutes? Just to say hi before we meet. I expected her to ghost, or make an excuse, or vanish completely. Instead, Leanna, sure, give me 5. That's when I should have canceled everything entirely. The video call connected, and immediately something was wrong. She sat in a dimly lit room, so dim the light behind her looked like a flickering candle. Her face was half hidden by shadows and a curtain of messy hair that wasn't red like in her pictures, but a dull, nearly brown shade. Hey, she said softly, her voice lower than I imagined. Nice to finally meet you. I blinked. Yeah. Hey, everything okay? Hard to see you. Sorry. Lights busted, she said, forcing a laugh that didn't sound like her. I tried to stay casual, but the unease crawled up my spine. So, excited for Thursday? I asked. She tilted her head. Her hair slid further over her face. Thursday? Yeah. The date? Oh, right, sorry. Long day. My head's all over. But that wasn't the worst part. She didn't remember anything we talked about. Nothing about music. Nothing about Ohio. Nothing about my cooking jokes. Her tone was different. Her mannerisms were different. Her eyes were different. Dull, almost vacant. It wasn't her. Or maybe it was. But nothing about her matched the girl I messaged. I kept the call short. Well, I should get back to cooking, I lied. Oh, okay, she said. See you Thursday. I ended the call and immediately blocked her. Not out of rudeness, out of sheer instinctual fear. But even then I didn't know how close I had been to walking into something I wouldn't have survived. Blocking usually means peace, but not this time. My phone buzzed from an unknown number. Unknown. Why'd you hang up so fast? I froze. My number wasn't public. My Tinder didn't list it. Another message. You seem nervous, don't be. Then, we're still on for Thursday. I typed back. Me. Who is this? No answer. Silence. Cold and suffocating. I didn't sleep that night. 2 nights before the supposed date, around 11 p.m., I heard a car slow down outside my apartment. I lived on a quiet street. Nobody slowed down unless they were parking. I went to the window and peeked through the blinds. A dark sedan sat under the street lamp. Driver window down. Someone inside staring straight at my building. I couldn't see the person clearly, but the outline of their head was unmistakable. Just a stillness, staring, watching. I whispered, "What the hell?" Then headlights washed across my window as the car pulled away slowly. Too slowly. Jay came over the next day after I begged him to. "Dude," he said after hearing everything, "that's not just some catfish, that's someone scouting you." "Scouting me?" I repeated, heart sinking. "Yes. Either for a setup, robbery, assault, whatever. People do this with fake profiles all the time." His words hit harder than they should have. "How do you know she didn't get your number from some app leak or some third-party crap?" Jay added. "Bro, you got lucky." I didn't feel lucky. I felt watched. Thursday night, the night the date was supposed to happen. I stayed home with every light on. At 8:17 p.m., I got a message from another unknown number. "I was waiting. Why didn't you come?" Then another. "You should have trusted me." And then, "Do you always lie?" I didn't reply. I couldn't. My stomach was in my throat. My palms were wet. My mind spiraled. Another message popped up. "You look different in person, by the way." My entire body seized. They had seen me. Somehow. Somewhere. Another message. "Window. 2nd floor. Right?" I ran to turn off all the lights. My breathing grew sharp and fast. A final message arrived. "Don't worry. We'll try again soon." That night I didn't sleep. Or breathe normally. Or feel safe. A week later, after paranoia practically ate me alive, I found a Reddit thread. Someone in my city talking about a group running fake profiles to lure men to abandoned shops on Pine Belt Avenue. Men were jumped, robbed, sometimes stabbed. Some never reported it. A comment in the thread mentioned something that made my blood freeze. One girl they use goes by the name Liana. Brown hair, dimly lit video calls. Acts confused. Be careful. I stared at the screen for 10 whole minutes before closing my laptop. I realized something then. Whoever I video chatted with wasn't Liana, and the real Liana may have never existed. Months passed. I stopped dating apps. I moved apartments. I changed my number. I avoided Pine Belt like it was cursed, but the fear never fully left. Sometimes late at night I feel it again, the same sensation of being watched, of someone waiting for me to slip up, of an unfinished plan lingering in the shadows. Then, last week, almost a year later, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject, no body text, just a single attachment. A screenshot of the Tinder profile photo of Liana, and a message below it. Second chances are rare. Don't waste this one. I slammed my laptop shut so fast it echoed, because now I know they weren't done, and maybe they never will be. I never really understood why dating felt harder for me than it did for everyone else. Growing up in a small suburb outside Ridgeford, Ohio, I'd always been the kind of person people labeled as nice, sweet, or easy to talk to. All the labels people give you when they like you, just not that way. By my mid-20s, I'd only had one real relationship, one that lasted a couple years and ended for reasons that were messy, quiet, and painful all at once. When it ended, it felt like somebody had quietly packed up all my confidence and walked out with it. For those first couple months alone, I stayed off dating apps. My friends kept telling me, "Dude, it's been long enough. Get back out there, swipe a little, just see what's up." And every time I'd tell them I wasn't ready, I could see the look on their faces, the mixture of sympathy and frustration. But eventually, loneliness hits harder than heartbreak. So one cold evening in late November 2015, after staring at my ceiling for an hour, I finally said screw it, downloaded the app again, and rebuilt my profile from scratch. No filters, no overthinking, just me. I was only swiping for maybe 15 minutes when I matched with someone named Brennan Ward. The moment I saw his profile picture, wide grin, dark hair, a kind of outdoorsy vibe, I thought, okay, he looks normal. Maybe this won't be terrible. His first message popped up seconds later. "Brennan, look, I don't want to be dramatic or anything, but I'm like 97% sure we're supposed to grab a drink this week. Corny, sure, but not in a creepy way. A little stupid, but funny." We talked for 2 days. Nothing deep, just enough to feel like we weren't total strangers. When he asked if I wanted to grab a drink at a dive bar called the Rusty Lantern in downtown Ridgeford, it was public enough, close enough, safe enough. So I said yes. The night of the date, I put a little extra effort into myself, not trying to be someone I wasn't, just trying to feel like I hadn't completely given up on dating. When I walked toward the bar, I saw someone standing outside near the neon sign. My stomach dropped a little. He looked like Brennan, sort of. Same person, yes, but older, rougher around the edges, shorter than he said, and his smile looked forced, like his profile picture had been taken during one of the only moments he'd ever looked genuinely happy. Still, it wasn't a catfish, just reality. Me. "Hey, Brennan?" "Brennan. Oh, yeah, hey, you look... wow, you look great." Me. "Thanks, you too." He didn't, but I didn't say that. Inside, the bar was dim and smelled faintly of beer soaked into old wood. We grabbed a table in the corner and ordered drinks. For the first 20 minutes, things felt okay. Nothing special, but fine. I talked. A lot. Too much, maybe. But he wasn't giving me much to work with. He'd nod occasionally, smile weirdly at random moments, or fidget with his sleeve cuffs like they were irritating him. He barely made eye contact. He laughed a half-second too late anytime I said something funny. He had this habit of licking his lips before talking, like he'd been rehearsing what to say. Something about him set off a quiet alarm inside me. Not loud enough to run, but enough to make me aware of every exit in the bar. Still, he wasn't aggressive. He wasn't rude. He was just off. After one drink, I pretended I had to be up early. Me. This was nice, but I should probably get going. Brennan. So soon? We barely got started. Me. Long day tomorrow. Brennan. All right. Yeah. No problem. Can I walk you home? Me. Oh no. I'm good. It's really close. He paused. His smile twitched. Brennan. Right. I'll text you then. I didn't commit to an answer. I waved goodbye, left the bar, and started walking home. It was maybe a 10-minute walk to my apartment building. The streets were quiet, just the occasional car rolling by. The cold made the air sharper, made everything sound closer. I reached my building, climbed the steps, and as I pulled my keys from my pocket, something made me glance over my shoulder. That's when I saw him. Brennan, standing at the end of the block, motionless, watching me. He wasn't pretending to be on his phone. He wasn't walking in the same direction. He was just standing there facing me. My pulse kicked hard. I ducked inside quickly, pretending I hadn't seen him. As the lobby door clicked shut behind me, a shiver ran up my spine. And I remember thinking, why the hell didn't he call out? Why didn't he wave? Why didn't he try to hide? Why was he just standing there like that? I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls, nothing from him, which somehow made it worse. I didn't sleep well that night. Days passed, and part of me tried to convince myself I was overreacting. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he just happened to be walking the same way. Maybe I scared myself for no reason. Except, he'd told me where he lived, and it was completely the opposite direction. Still, there were no texts, no messages in the app, no apologies, no excuses. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels intentional. For a few days, the feeling faded. I went to work, went to the gym, hung out with friends. Normal life resumed, at least on the surface, until the next Thursday night. I had just gotten out of the shower when a knock echoed through my apartment. Not loud, not frantic, just steady. Knock, knock, knock. I froze, dripping water onto the bathroom floor. Another knock. I grabbed a towel, wrapped it around myself, and stepped carefully toward the door. My apartment had a small, frosted window near the top corner of the door, just big enough to make out a silhouette. Someone was standing there, tallish, still, silent. My heart hammered. Me, quietly to myself. No way, no freaking way. I moved closer until I could make out the outline more clearly. And then I heard it, a voice I recognized instantly. Brennan. Hey, it's me. Hope I didn't freak you out. Just wanted to talk for a sec. My throat tightened. How the hell did he know which apartment was mine? I didn't open the door. Me. You need to leave. Brennan. Yeah, I get that. I wanted to say sorry for the other night. I think I weirded you out. I didn't mean to. Me. You followed me home. Brennan. No, I didn't. I swear, I was just, I don't know, walking, thinking. I didn't know that was your place. Me. Brennan, go. Brennan, can you just open the door? Please, I just want to explain. The way he said, please, soft, shaky, almost desperate, made my skin crawl. Me. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. Silence, then footsteps, then nothing. I stood there for 5 minutes before I finally looked through the peephole. He was gone. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, my phone, and left immediately to stay at my brother's place. For about 2 weeks after that, everything seemed normal again. No knocks, no shadows outside my window, no random messages. I let myself breathe again. But then I started seeing him. Once near my building's mailbox area. Once standing in line behind me at a coffee shop. Once at my gym, even though he told me he worked out across town. He never approached, never spoke, just watched. That silent, calculating stare, like he was waiting for something. I went to the police. They told me, "We can't do anything unless he threatens you or physically approaches you." Exactly what I expected. I felt insane. I questioned everything. Was he really following me? Or was I connecting dots that weren't there? But deep down, I knew the truth. I was being hunted. One night I was coming home from work later than usual. It was raining hard, raindrops hitting the pavement loud enough to drown out traffic sounds. I unlocked the front door to my building and stepped inside, and someone cleared their throat behind me. I spun. Brennan, standing half lit by the street lamp outside, soaked from the rain, eyes wide. "Brennan, why'd you move?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't told him I moved. I hadn't updated anything online. I'd blocked him everywhere. I didn't answer. I couldn't answer. "Brennan, I just wanted to fix things. I thought we had a good night." His voice cracked. Not emotional, unstable. "Me. Stay away from me." "Brennan, I tried, but you always walk so fast. You don't look at me anymore." "Me. I don't know you." "Brennan, you did. For a while you did." That's when I realized he genuinely believed he knew me, like we'd been close, like something real had happened between us. He took a step forward. I backed into the locked lobby door. "Brennan, just hear me out." His voice rose just enough to crack through the sound of rain. "Brennan, I'm not a bad guy. You don't see it yet, but you will. I can be good. I am good. You just give me a damn chance." I pulled out my phone. "Me. I'm calling the cops." "Brennan, don't do that, please. Look, don't freak out." I dialed 911. He froze. Then he turned and ran into the darkness. After that night, I didn't hesitate. I packed everything I owned in 2 days. Found a new apartment across town. Didn't tell anyone except my brother. Deleted all my dating profiles. I changed my number. Changed my daily routine, changed the gym I went to, and as far as I know, he never found me again. Sometimes in crowded places, I still think I see him. A face that looks too familiar, a posture that matches his, a stare that lingers too long. Maybe he's still out there. Maybe he gave up. Maybe he moved on to someone else. I don't know. But I do know one thing. One bad date can be all it takes for your entire life to shift sideways. Everything after that night felt different. My sense of safety, my trust in people. Even the way I walk alone at night. It changes you, maybe permanently. Maybe that's the real horror of dating apps. You never actually know who's behind that smile, or what they want from you, or how far they'll go to get it. I never thought one stupid decision at 18 would follow me like a ghost years later. The kind of thing that creeps into your mind when you're pumping gas alone at 2 a.m. Or when a stranger's footsteps sound a little too close behind you. Back then, I was living on the outskirts of Ashbury, Kansas, where the roads stretch long and empty, and people tend to mind their own business, sometimes a little too much. I was a quiet kid growing up, but by the time I hit 18, I'd already found myself different from most girls in town. I dressed in loose jeans, dusty boots, and old truck stop hoodies, kept my hair cropped short, and didn't care if anyone thought I looked too much like one of the boys. I'd known I liked girls since I was 12, didn't bother hiding it. But curiosity is a strange thing. It creeps up on you when life gets too predictable, too small. And Ashbury was very, very small. At 18, I just started working part-time at a freight yard outside town. Long nights, loud machinery, older truckers who'd been everywhere and seen everything. A few of them treated me like their kid sister. A few treated me like I didn't belong. But all of them had stories. Stories that made my own life feel too empty, too routine. And maybe that's why I downloaded HingeMate, some off-brand dating app everyone said was full of weirdos but had the most real locals. Whatever that meant. I wasn't looking for love. Hell, I wasn't even looking for anything serious. I just wanted to feel something new, something that pulled me out of the grayness of Ashbury nights And that's when I matched with Troy Mercer. I remember his profile picture clearly. A messy head of brown hair, a little overgrown, sharp jawline, dark hoodie. He looked like every Midwest small-town guy who used to skip third period and smoke behind the gym. But he had this crooked grin, something between charming and suspicious, like he was hiding something but daring you to ask. His bio said, "Not good at small talk, good at late-night drives and horror movies. If you're boring, swipe left." Normally I would have rolled my eyes and ignored him, but that night I felt reckless, restless, so I swiped right, and he messaged almost immediately. "Troy, damn, didn't think someone like you was actually from Ashbury." Me, someone like me? Troy, "Yeah, you look like trouble." I laughed. I shouldn't have. But when you're young and bored, even a risky laugh feels like adrenaline. We talked for hours that first night, not flirting at first, more like trading pieces of our lives. He told me he'd grown up in South Ashbury, a rougher part of town near the old grain mills. Said he lived with his older cousin, that his family wasn't really around. I told him about the freight yard job, about wanting to get into long-haul trucking one day. Told him I liked girls but wasn't totally closed off to the idea of experiencing something different. He didn't judge, didn't push, just said, "Curiosity's not a crime, you're allowed to figure yourself out." And hearing that felt nice. Too nice. By the third day of talking, he asked me to come over. "Nothing crazy," he said. "Just pizza, movies, and whatever happens. I'm chill." And I should have said no. I should have remembered every warning, every nightmare scenario girls tell each other. But at 18, you believe you're invincible. You believe danger happens to other people. So I said yes. It was a Friday, early fall. The kind of night Kansas gets quiet, too quiet, where the sky looks like it's made of cold metal and you can smell distant rain before it ever touches the ground. I pulled up to Troy's house around 8:45 p.m. He lived on a narrow street lined with old duplexes, each one looking like it had survived a tornado or two. His place wasn't the worst, but it wasn't great either. One porch light flickered like it was dying, and weeds had pretty much claimed the entire front yard. Still, I told myself, he's young, probably broke, don't judge. He opened the door before I knocked like he'd been watching from the peephole. "Avery?" he asked with a grin. He looked the same as his profile, almost too much the same, like he'd posed to match it exactly. His eyes were tired but sharp, the kind of eyes that didn't miss much. "Come on in," he said, stepping aside. Inside, the place smelled like pizza grease, cheap cologne, and stale cigarette smoke, but it was cleaner than I expected. Couch, TV, a beat-up coffee table, a stack of horror DVDs, dim yellow lamp. And for a while, it was normal. We ate pizza, we talked about our jobs, music, the crappy weather. He teased me about being a baby trucker, and I teased him about owning more hoodies than actual furniture. The tension built slowly, naturally, like the way heat builds in a room when two people stop pretending they're just friends. Eventually, he scooted closer, then closer again. Then his hand brushed mine. He whispered, "You good with this?" And for a moment, I felt safe, like he actually cared. So I said yes. The rest happened. Quick, intense, but consensual. And afterward, we just lay there under his crappy blanket, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside. I thought, okay, maybe this wasn't a mistake. Then it happened. The scream. A sharp, guttural, real scream. Not from a TV, not from outside, but from inside the house, downstairs. I jerked upright. "Troy, what the hell was that?" He stiffened. Barely, but I felt it. Then he forced a laugh. A fake one, thin as paper. "Relax, it's just my cousin watching some horror crap. He's loud as hell. I'll go tell him to shut it." No, the scream was wrong. It had a tremble in it, a kind of pain people don't fake. While he went downstairs, I scrambled to gather my clothes, heart racing so hard it hurt. My mind whispered, something's off. Something's really off. And when he came back up, his face had changed. He wasn't smiling anymore. His eyes looked darker, almost annoyed. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Thought we were having a good night." His voice had an edge now, something cold, something possessive. I swallowed hard. "Yeah, my dad just texted. He's freaking out. I gotta go." He stared at me a moment too long, then sighed. "Fine, let me walk you out." He didn't touch me, didn't say goodbye, just shut the door gently behind me. And that should have been the end of it. Just a weird, creepy night. But 2 days later, everything came crashing down. I was eating cereal, half asleep, scrolling on my phone, when the headline flashed across my screen: Ashbury residents arrested for holding man captive in basement. I didn't think anything of it until I saw the mugshot. Troy. Same crooked grin, but now twisted. Eyes wild. Face bruised. The article said he and his cousin had kidnapped the cousin's stepfather, held him hostage, beat him, starved him, for weeks. He escaped during a doctor's appointment, reported everything. Police raided the house, found blood in the basement, found restraints. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I'd pass out. Because the date I'd been on, the scream I heard, the basement below me that night, that was him, the stepfather, tortured, starving, begging. And if I had stayed longer, if I hadn't heard that scream, if Troy hadn't believed my lie about my dad, I don't think I'd be alive right now. For months after, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made my skin crawl. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every man that looked at me too long made me feel sick. People always say, "You were lucky. You got out in time. You're so strong." But luck feels different when you realize you were in the same room as a monster and didn't know it. Strength feels like a lie when you remember you laughed with him, kissed him, trusted him. I told no one for a long time. Not my coworkers, not my friends, not even the women I dated later. It took years to tell the story out loud without shaking. Even now, part of me wonders if that scream will ever fully leave my head. But I tell the story now because someone needs to hear it. Because someone young, restless, bored, lonely, someone like I was, might download an app thinking it's harmless, might trust a stranger because he seems chill, might think nothing bad ever happens in small towns like Ashbury. But danger doesn't care about town size. Evil doesn't need the city to thrive. Sometimes the darkest things grow quietly, right under our feet, behind thin walls, in basements we never see. And sometimes, you only survive because fate decides you get one more chance. I never saw Troy again. Didn't follow the trial. Didn't want to know the details. All I know is he's locked away. And I'm still here. But sometimes, when I'm driving long Kansas highways late at night, windows cracked, radio low, sometimes I swear I hear that scream again. Faint, echoing, like a memory that refuses to die. And I grip the steering wheel tighter. And I remind myself, I survived, but not everyone does. I grew up believing that love would just sort of fall into place for me. That's what my mom always said. When the right person shows up, you'll just know. But by the time I was 26, living alone in a cramped studio off Bayview Street in Hawthorne, Ohio, it felt like the only thing falling into place was my loneliness. I wasn't pathetic or anything. I had friends, a job at a warehouse distribution center, and enough going on to keep me from thinking too much. But nights were the worst. Nights were when the quiet settled in, when I could hear the pipes groaning through the walls and couples laughing on the street below. Nights were when the loneliness seemed to sit on the edge of my bed with me. So yeah, I got on dating apps. I had tried them on and off for years, but the stretch I'm about to talk about, early 2017, was probably my most desperate attempt. Tinder was the main one I used because it seeed like the simplest. Swipe, Match, message, meet, repeat. After a string of painfully mediocre dates, a girl who only talked about her juice cleanse. A woman who showed up an hour late and said traffic 3 times without explaining. I was almost ready to delete the app completely. But then I matched with Reina. Her profile wasn't overly glamorous. No perfect filters. No bikini pics. No fake-sounding quotes. Just a clean photo of her smiling on a pedestrian bridge and a bio that read, usually reading, sometimes hiking, always hungry. Let's talk. It was simple, but it pulled me in. Her eyes seemed warm. Something about her felt real in a way most profiles didn't. When we matched, my heart actually jumped. I remember saying, "Oh damn, okay," out loud in my apartment like an idiot. I messaged her first. Me, "Hey, appreciate you matching with a guy who's currently eating cereal for dinner." Reina, "Cereal is elite dinner food. You're already winning." We spent the next hour chatting books, movies, dumb jokes, embarrassing stories. The flow was so natural I kept checking her profile to make sure she was real. She seemed funny, smart, and genuinely interested. On the 3rd day of messaging, she said, "Reina, let's meet, if you're free this weekend." My stomach fluttered. Finally, someone I actually liked me back. We agreed to meet at Brooklyn Park, a huge public park in the center of the city, at the front gate around 7:45 p.m. I figured we'd take a walk, maybe grab coffee from the little cart that sometimes stayed open late. I didn't think twice. I was excited. Nervous, sure, but excited. I had no idea that night would become one of the darkest memories of my life. I left my apartment around 7:10, wearing my best, I didn't try too hard, outfit: dark jeans, a gray hoodie, and clean sneakers. February air bit into my face, sharp and dry, but not enough to make me turn back for my heavier coat. Brooklyn Park was buzzing by the time I arrived. Families heading home, teenagers skating around the benches, people walking their dogs. Very public, very safe. I texted her, "Me, I'm here, by the gate." She responded instantly. "Reina, hey, can we meet like 2 blocks east instead? There's a small street corner, Elm and Patterson. It's easier for me to get to." I frowned a little. It wasn't a big deal, but it felt odd. Still, I typed, "Me, yeah, cool, on my way." As I walked, I kept imagining how she might look in person, whether her smile would match her pictures, whether her voice would too. I rehearsed a stupid joke about the cold weather. I kept checking the time. I was genuinely excited. But when I reached the intersection, she wasn't there. No one was. A few cars passed. A couple walked by holding hands, but no one looked like they were waiting for a date. My phone buzzed again. "Reina. Sorry, actually. Can we do one more spot? There's a side entrance to the old Maplewood apartments. It's right behind the convenience store by that corner. I'm literally right around the back." I hesitated this time. Something in my stomach tightened, not fear exactly, but an unease that stretched through my ribs like a rubber band being pulled. I typed, "Me, why not just meet here? Reina, I'm kinda stuck talking to my roommate out here. Just come back this way. It's like 2 minutes. Promise. Reina, please." That last message, "please," hooked me in. It felt personal, sincere, and I really wanted this date to work. So I went. The Maplewood apartments were old brown brick, tiny windows, the kind of place where someone probably yelled at their neighbor weekly. The side entrance she mentioned was basically a narrow little passage wedged between 2 of the buildings. As soon as I stepped in, something felt wrong. Dead quiet, no cars, no voices. The air felt colder, almost heavy. The only light came from a flickering bulb above an old metal door. I typed, "Me, hey, I'm here." No response. I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Then, from the far end of the alley, I heard footsteps. 2 sets. Slow, steady, deliberate. I squinted down the alley and saw 2 men walking toward me, both wearing black hoodies, dark jeans, and surgical masks. One had a small tattoo peeking from his neck. The other walked with his hands deep in his pockets. My breath caught. "Yo, hey," I said quietly, backing up a step. They didn't speak, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge me, just kept walking. I turned around instinctively and froze, because at the mouth of the alley stood a third man, larger than the other two. Same outfit, same mask, hands gloved, broad shoulders blocking the exit like a boulder blocking a cave. "Shit," I whispered. My heart slammed against my ribs. I moved toward the door and grabbed the handle instinctively. Locked. I rattled it harder, panic clawing up my throat. No, come on," I muttered, shaking it until it rattled the wall. When I turned, the three men were almost on top of me, forming a tight half circle. One of them spoke a deep, flat voice. "Where's Raina?" My blood ran cold. I don't know what you're talking about," I stammered. The man shook his head. "Nah, you do," he said. "You know exactly what this is." He stepped closer, and the alley seemed to shrink. "Wallet, phone, now." My throat tightened. I could barely breathe. I didn't fight, didn't argue, didn't plead. I just handed over my wallet with trembling hands, then my phone. The bigger man snatched them without a word. Before they turned to leave, one of them leaned in, voice low and icy. "You dial the cops, you tell anyone, we will find you. Don't be stupid." I nodded quickly, tears burning behind my eyes. They walked away together calmly, casually, like this was routine. I stayed pressed against the cold metal door long after they turned the corner. My lungs shook with shallow breaths. My legs felt numb. I kept listening for footsteps coming back, for someone running toward me, for anything. When I finally stepped out of the alley, the sky was darker. Streetlights hummed. Cars passed without noticing me. I didn't even have a phone to call a friend. I didn't know anyone's number by heart. Home was a 25-minute walk. Every shadow looked like it could conceal someone. Every passing truck made me flinch. And the whole way home, I kept thinking the same thing. They could be behind me. They could be watching right now. I got to my apartment, locked the door, and slid down to the floor. My body was shaking. I didn't cry at first, I was too stunned for that. When tears finally came, they felt hot and humiliating. I wanted to call the police. I did, but the man's threat kept echoing. "We will find you." I believed him. I hated that I believed him, but I did. And the embarrassment, the shame of being lured like that, it crawled under my skin. I felt stupid, naive, pathetic. I didn't want to explain it to anyone, so I didn't. I went to work the next day like nothing happened. Bought a cheap replacement phone. Took the loss. Buried the memory. For years, I didn't talk about it. Not once. I tried to move on. Tried to laugh again. Tried dating again. Though apps always made my stomach twist afterward. But the truth is, that night never really left me. Sometimes when I walk down a quiet street, I still scan for someone following me. Sometimes a random message from a stranger on an app makes my skin crawl. And sometimes on the worst nights I lie awake imagining an alternate timeline where those men didn't stop at robbery, where they wanted something else, where I didn't make it out, but I'm alive. I'm here. And for the first time, I'm telling the story. The weight of it feels a little lighter now. Just a little. I never thought one stupid decision could fracture the way I see people for the rest of my life. Most stories like this start with some dramatic moment that signals danger right away. But mine didn't. Mine started slow, quiet, almost boring. Just an ordinary week in Chicago that turned into something I still have nightmares about. I was 23, working at a design shop in Logan Square, barely keeping my life together but pretending I had it all figured out. My roommate, Talia, used to joke that I had goldfish syndrome. I forgot red flags 3 seconds after seeing them. I'd laugh it off, but honestly, she wasn't wrong. I grew up in Joliet, moved to Chicago because I was sick of my small town life, and I wanted to be around people who didn't know every stupid thing I'd ever done. But Chicago, it has this way of making you feel invisible and watched at the same time. It's loud, fast, alive, and yet the loneliest place I've ever lived. I'd been single for almost a year after getting out of a messy breakup with a guy named Colin who cheated on me with some girl he met at a gas station. Yeah, a gas station. so my confidence was still recovering from that cinematic disaster. Talia had pushed me to download a dating app. "Chicago's full of people," she said one night, curled on our ugly gray couch. "You gotta meet at least one normal guy in this city." I remember rolling my eyes. Normal guys don't exist. They're like affordable apartments, a myth. But I downloaded the app anyway, and that's where I met him. Cole Rayner. A name so clean and harmless I didn't know it would eventually terrify me. Cole messaged me on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were slow at the shop, and I always ended up doom scrolling. His profile said he was 26, worked in independent contracting, which sounded vague but not weird, and lived near Wicker Park. His pictures were, honestly, good. Maybe too good. Hoodie selfies, gym snapshots, a picture at the lake. Not model tier, not fake looking, just handsome in that quiet, Midwest way. He messaged first. "Cole, you look like somebody who knows where the best coffee is in the city. Prove me wrong." I laughed. "That was new," I replied. "Me? I won't prove you wrong because you're right. I'm a caffeine snob." He sent a smiley, and we talked for hours. Not flirty stuff like actual conversations. About music, dumb childhood stories, the most Chicago thing we'd ever done. I told him about the time I got stuck on the red line for 2 hours, and he said that was basically a rite of passage. He was funny, charming, slow-paced, normal. It felt safe. So when he asked me out 3 days later, I said yes. We decided to meet at a small coffee shop in River North called Elm and Ivy. Neutral spot, tons of people, and close to the red line. Perfect. I took the train there. It was a chilly evening, one of those nights where Chicago wind hits you like it has a personal grudge. I got there 10 minutes early, because anxiety is punctual. I texted him. Me. Here. Wearing a brown jacket. "Please tell me you're exactly 6 feet so I can brag to my short friends." He replied instantly. "Cole, you'll see me in 30 seconds. I'm walking up." And then I saw him. Walking down the sidewalk like someone out of a movie, not fancy, not intimidating, just normal. A black hoodie, jeans, clean haircut, calm expression. His smile matched his pictures perfectly. "Hey," he said, voice warm, kind of deep. "You must be Arya." I nodded, suddenly shy. "You look exactly like your pictures." "So do you." He grinned. "Better, actually." We went inside, ordered coffee, sat in a corner booth, and talked for almost 2 hours. It was easy, effortless. I felt comfortable, too comfortable. In hindsight, when the cafe closed, he walked me outside. "You sure you don't want to ride home?" he said. "It's cold as hell, and you live pretty far." I hesitated. Every instinct said don't, but every emotion said he's been nothing but great. And that's the moment that ruined everything. I said, "Okay." His car was a dark silver sedan, clean interior. Smelled faintly like pine air freshener. Nothing unusual. No weird junk. No strange vibes. We started driving, and everything still felt fine. He joked about the terrible Chicago drivers, and I laughed. He asked about my job, my roommate, my favorite places in the city. At some point, I realized I'd stopped holding on to my cautiousness. That's when the world flipped. We were crossing West Grand Avenue when I saw the flash of blue lights behind us. A police SUV. Sirens off at first. Just lights. "Guess someone's speeding," I muttered. But Cole stiffened. His jaw clenched. He didn't look at me when he whispered, "Shit." Then he pressed the gas. Hey, what are you doing?" I said, half laughing, thinking it had to be some misunderstanding. He didn't answer. Cole, stop, pull over," he muttered again. "Shit," gripping the wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. The SUV siren turned on, wailing, screaming. My heartbeat matched its rhythm. "Why are you speeding up?" I yelled. He finally looked at me, eyes dark, panicked, nothing like the guy from the cafe. "I can't get pulled over," he said. "Just chill, okay? I'll explain later." No, stop the car. Stop the damn..." He took a sharp turn onto a side street. The tires screeched. I slammed into the door. pain shooting up my arm. "Cole!" I screamed. More sirens joined. Lights bounced off buildings, flashing red blue across the windshield. People on the sidewalks shouted as we flew past. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, but he saw and slapped it away. "Don't," he snapped. The car swerved. A horn blared. Someone shouted from the sidewalk, "Yo, watch it." I wasn't breathing anymore. I was frozen. And then, he turned too fast. The car slid. The back end fishtailed. Crunch. We slammed into a metal fence. My head whipped forward. Stars burst in my vision. The world rang. Before I could process anything, doors slammed behind us. Boots hit pavement. Driver, hands where we can see him. Passenger, don't move. 2 police officers, guns pointed straight at us. Cole tried to open his door. "Don't fucking move," an officer yelled. I burst into tears, trembling so violently I couldn't form words. I don't know him, I just met him. They dragged Cole out first. He didn't fight. Then they pulled me out gently, but firmly. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" I don't think so. I don't know. I'm scared. "It's okay. You're safe now." I wasn't safe. Not yet. Because I still didn't know who the hell Cole actually was. They put us in separate police cars. From my window, I saw him talking fast, shaking his head, eyes wild. After 10 minutes, an officer opened my door. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I'm gonna need you to listen carefully. That man you were with, he's wanted." "Wanted for what?" The officer hesitated. "Multiple things, including vehicle theft." My stomach dropped. "The car," I whispered. "This car wasn't his." "No," he said. "It wasn't." I thought I would vomit. They took me to the station but treated me like a victim, not a suspect. I sat in a small gray room, hands shaking, telling the same story over and over. I met him online. I don't know him. We went for coffee. He offered me a ride. The detective nodded. "We believe you." At one point I asked, voice small, What else did he do?" The detective sighed. "He's been on the run for months. Fraud, breaking and entering, identity theft. Some guys like him. They know how to charm. They know exactly what to say to gain trust." I closed my eyes. Of course he did. That was his whole strategy. When they were done questioning me, an older officer called a cab to take me home. The whole ride, I stared out the window, unable to stop replaying the night. Every smile, every joke, every moment I thought he was safe. I got home, locked my door, and slid down the hallway wall until I was sitting on the floor. Talia found me like that. "Aria, oh my God, what happened? Did someone hurt you?" I broke down in her arms. I didn't sleep for days. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard sirens. I smelled pine air freshener. I saw Cole's face, the moment his expression changed. I blamed myself at first. How could I be so stupid? Why did I get in his car? Why didn't I listen to my instincts? But the truth sunk in eventually. He lied. He manipulated. He was the danger, never me. I found out a week later that he pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence. I never saw him again, but his name still scares me. His smile, his voice, his casual, "No worries, I'll drive you home." I still use dating apps, but I meet only in public places. I never share personal info, and I never ever get into someone's car on the first date, because one night almost destroyed my life, and it all started with a smile. I was 22 when all of this began, but I swear it aged me a decade. I'm 28 now, and everything about that year still sits in the back of my throat like smoke I can't cough out. Back then, I was stubborn, painfully stubborn. The kind of girl who needed to learn things the hard way because warnings felt like challenges, not lifelines. I grew up in Alder Creek, Washington, a tiny town about an hour outside of Tacoma. Foggy mornings, rainy afternoons, and quiet roads where headlights cut through the mist like slow-moving ghosts, small enough that everybody knew your last name. but big enough that people stayed out of your business as long as you didn't bring it to their porch. Back then, I lived with my parents and my little sister, Riley, who was 17 and had that fearless, sarcastic attitude only teenagers can get away with. I had a boyfriend at the time too, Jonah, sweet enough, insecure enough, and not the kind of guy who made you excited to check your phone. We were more routine than romance, but stability felt safe, and I convinced myself that was enough. It wasn't, and that's how I ended up talking to a man more than twice my age. His name wasn't Dude, like everyone jokingly called him later. His real name was Cole Morin, and the first time I saw his message, I thought he was interesting. Weird, sure, but interesting in that way older, creative men sometimes are. He was 40 years old, lived in Olympia, and described himself as a freelance storyteller, which should have been my first clue that something was off. But I was 22, bored, and lonely in ways I didn't want to admit. And Cole was exciting. At first, it started with one of those random friend suggestions on a smaller social app most people in town used back then. I posted pictures of my art, little watercolor landscapes. He commented something like, "If the mist over Alder Creek could talk, it'd ask you to paint it." Cheesy, but sweet. Then a message. "Cole, mind if I say hi? I'm not here to flirt, promise. I just like meeting people who see the world a little sideways." I should have ignored it, but I didn't. We started messaging. His texts were theatrical. Like every conversation was some medieval quest, and he was the wise old wizard guiding me through a haunted forest. I laughed it off, thinking it was part of his quirky personality. Within a week, we were talking every day. Within a month, he knew more about me than most of my friends did. He'd send voice notes too. His voice was calm, slow, almost hypnotic. He spoke like every word was a sermon. Sometimes he'd say things like, "You have an energy about you, kind of rare. People like us find each other for a reason." I didn't know what that meant, but it felt flattering. Jonah didn't care that I was talking to another guy. He was the type to shrug and say, "Just don't let him be a creep." Looking back, Jonah should have cared a lot more. After a few months, Cole disappeared, deleted his account, stopped messaging, vanished. I moved on. Sort of. But then, almost a year later, he texted me out of nowhere. It was a random Wednesday night. Washington rain hammered my bedroom window like impatient fingertips. I was scrolling through my phone when a number I didn't recognize texted, "Unknown. Lost every contact in my phone except yours." Weird, right? Attached was a screenshot of my contact in his phone. The picture he had saved for me was one I'd only sent him once, a selfie from almost a year ago. I'd forgotten about it. He hadn't. Me. How did you lose everything except mine? Cole. That's the question of the night, isn't it? I didn't like that answer. But my stubbornness, my boredom, my need to feel chosen, they won. We started talking again. He told me he was going through a divorce after years of spiritual misalignment. When I asked what that meant, he said, "Let's just say enlightenment isn't compatible with the unawakened." Again I laughed, even though something about it felt wrong. He called me his anchor friend. He said I was the only person who listened. He said he had lines he'd never cross because he respected me too much. I believed him. For a while. The first big red flag wasn't even subtle. He asked me to help him follow his soon-to-be ex-wife. I was sitting on the porch that day, rain misting through the screen door as I held my phone. He called me with that calm voice, like he was asking me to grab milk from the store. "Cole, can you do me a favor? She wouldn't recognize you. I need to know who she's staying with." Me? No? That sounds crazy. Cole, it's not crazy. It's closure. You'd be helping me heal. The way he said it soft, almost parental, made me feel guilty for saying no, like I was the unreasonable one. But I said no again. He didn't push it. He just said, "There are lines I won't cross. I promise. Trust matters." But looking back, he said won't, not can't. There's a difference. The second red flag was his religion. He didn't call it Scientology, but it was Scientology. His center was in Olympia. His audits, his sessions, his energy realignments. He said he was high-ranking, that people respected him. He said he didn't want me involved, but he wanted me to go with him for moral support. Every time I said no, he'd sigh and say, "Fear holds back brilliant souls." My best friend, Haley, told me straight up, "Girl, run, please. This dude sounds like the type to lock people in basements." And because I was 22 and dumb, I kept talking to him anyway. Cole asked to hang out. I avoided it for weeks, but eventually I caved because I felt bad. I told him I was at my parents' house. I gave him the address. That was my biggest mistake. He showed up 10 minutes later, on a moped, in the rain, and this 42-year-old man was barely 4'11". I'm not exaggerating. I'm 5'7", and he looked like he'd need a booster seat just to see over the counter. I stepped outside, and before I could say anything, he leaned forward and shoved his tongue in my mouth. No warning, no hi, just a wet, cold, invasive kiss. I jerked back, wiping my mouth. "Me? What the hell are you doing?" He smiled wide, almost relieved, and touched my cheek with both hands like he was examining a piece of fruit. "Cole, just making sure you're real." My skin crawled. Rain dripped off his helmet. The moped sputtered behind him. Everything smelled like wet asphalt and pine needles. He tried to convince me to ride with him. "Cole, come on, it'll be fun. Wind in your hair, pure freedom." Me? "I'm good. Seriously, I'll pass." He kept insisting, almost whining, but I refused. Then my little sister Riley stepped outside. His eyes lit up in a way that made my stomach twist. "Cole, well, hey there, kiddo. Want to take a ride?" Before I could stop her, Riley, being the fearless idiot teen she was, said, "Sure, why not?" I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. My heart pounded as she climbed on behind him. He took off around the block like he was showing off. I stood in the driveway, shaking. When he came back, I told him it was time to go. He left reluctantly, promising we'd have more adventures soon. I locked every door in the house after that. It only got worse from there. Cole started messaging nonstop paragraphs, voicemails, late-night calls. He got possessive, jealous, creepy. "Cole, I think about you during my sessions. Cole, you're my only real friend. Cole, I don't like when you take long to text back." I told him I had a boyfriend. He said he didn't care because emotional bonds transcend labels. Then he started asking about Riley. "Cole, she's mature for 17. Cole, you should give me her number. Cole, you both have a special energy. I think the three of us could connect." I felt sick reading those messages. I told him no. He insisted I promised. I told him to stop. He didn't. I wanted to block him so badly, but I was terrified. He had my address. He knew where Riley slept. He knew when my parents worked. I felt trapped. For days he blew up my phone 20, 30, 40 texts at a time. I responded once for every 20 messages, trying not to anger him. Finally, I snapped. I blocked him. Then he texted Jonah, over and over, asking where I was, demanding Riley's number, saying I forgot to give it to him, saying I owed him honesty. Jonah called me frantic. "Jonah, what the hell is this dude's problem? Why is he asking about Riley? Why is he calling me bro?" I felt sick. I told Jonah everything. He was livid, but clueless about what to do. Days later, even though he was blocked, messages still poured through my secondary folder. 2 15-page texts, one in English, one in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. He wrote things like, "You're ungrateful. You ruined my healing. I know where truth lives. Your sister understands more than you ever will. I saved them in case something happened to us." For months he texted both me and Jonah from different numbers. I blocked each one. He'd make new ones. Then, just like the first time, he disappeared. I'm 28 now. Life moved on. I moved out. Riley's in college. Jonah and I broke up long ago. Everything changed. But sometimes late at night when I walk past my living room window, I swear I see movement near the street. A short shadow. A small figure standing perfectly still. Maybe it's paranoia. Maybe it's trauma. Maybe it's nothing. But maybe, just maybe, it's him, still making sure I'm real. And every time my phone buzzes with an unknown number, a piece of my stomach drops like a stone in dark water. Because red flags? They're called red flags for a reason. And ignoring them nearly destroyed my life. I never thought loneliness would hit me the way it did the year I turned 32. Most people my age in Anchorage had already figured out their lives, married, having kids, posting pictures of their weekend hikes or fishing trips. Meanwhile, I was still in the same one-bedroom apartment near Spennard Road, still working the same job at the freight warehouse, and still spending evenings eating microwaved meals while watching shows I'd already seen 100 times. It wasn't like I'd never dated. I had one real relationship back when I lived in Fairbanks for college, but it fell apart right after graduation. She moved to Oregon. I stayed in Alaska. And that was that. Since then, I'd always been the cool friend. The guy you can talk to, or someone who gives great advice. Never the guy someone actually wanted. After years of my friends telling me to get out there, I finally listened. Maybe it was the long February nights messing with my head. Maybe it was the silence in my apartment. Maybe it was the simple fact that I couldn't remember the last time someone looked at me like I mattered. So one freezing Tuesday, after work, I created a profile on Northern Meet, one of the bigger Alaska-based dating apps back in the early 2010 seconds. This was before dating apps were normal. Back then, people still whispered about them like they were something embarrassing. I spent 2 hours scrolling through profiles, trying not to overthink things. That's when I saw her, Elara, 27. Lives near downtown. Loves hiking, old diners, and anything with live music. She had warm brown eyes and this messy, shoulder-length dark hair that made her look approachable, not overly curated like so many profiles. She wore a denim jacket and had a half smile that looked more genuine than posed. I stared at her picture longer than I should have. Finally, I messaged her. Me. Hey, I know it's late, but your profile feels real. Hard to find that here. Hope your night's going good. I didn't expect a reply. Then my phone buzzed. Elara, real. I'll take that. Lol. Yeah, I'm trying to stay awake, long day. How's your night? My chest tightened, and not in a bad way. For the next few days, we talked non-stop, long voice messages, late conversations, stories about our lives. She told me she moved to Alaska from Nevada because she wanted a fresh start. She said she didn't trust cities anymore. I told her about my warehouse job, my tiny apartment, how I'd been feeling stuck. She laughed at my jokes. She remembered small things I said. She made me feel seen. By Friday, she asked if I wanted to meet. I hesitated. Meeting someone from the internet still carried this weird shame back then. But something about her felt different. She suggested we grab a drink at a quiet pub near downtown. The Timber Holler, an old place with wooden walls and a jukebox that barely worked. Then she added something strange, but she made it sound normal. Hey, I hope this isn't weird, but my cousin's visiting from out of town. He just got in today. He's cool though. Would you mind if he tags along for a bit? A small red flag waved in the back of my mind. I did better one-on-one. I always had. Bringing a cousin was odd, but I didn't want to seem insecure, so I said yes. Worst decision I ever made. Snow fell in slow. Fat flakes the night of the date, heavy enough that it coated the roads, but light enough that visibility wasn't a problem. Anchorage had that quiet stillness it gets when winter hits just right. Even the traffic seems muted. I parked near the pub and walked toward the entrance, exhaling clouds of warm air. As I approached, I recognized her immediately. She looked better in person, like her photos didn't fully capture her energy. She wore a long, dark coat, hair loose and slightly curled at the ends. But she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, tall, maybe 6'3", with a thick beard, a shaved head, and broad shoulders. He looked like someone who chopped wood barehanded for fun. His expression was unreadable. Elara lifted her hand in a wave. Hey, you must be Rowan. I felt my stomach twist. I forced a smile. Yeah, hey, good to meet you. "This is my cousin," she said, motioning at him. "This is Hale." Hale nodded once. "Sup?" His voice was deep and flat, no friendliness in it. Something about him felt off. The way he looked at me, sizing me up like I was an inconvenience, not a person. But Alara's smile kept me grounded. She was warm, chatty, excited, and I didn't